Have you ever felt trapped in a life that isn't your own? Like you're living to please others but losing yourself in the process. What you don't know is that true freedom comes when you decide to choose yourself, and this can completely transform your reality. In today's video, we're going to dive into the deep journey of self-discovery, where we'll talk about how detachment, synchronicity, and individuation can unlock a new life for you. Get ready for an intense and revealing journey where you'll finally discover how to free yourself from the bonds of control and live the life that was always yours. Don't miss it. Chapter 1. The Inner Journey. The Challenge of Choosing Yourself. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the life you're living isn't really yours. Every decision you've made, every sacrifice you've endured, every mask you've worn, all to conform to what others expected of you. But inside you there has always been a silent voice, muffled by responsibilities, the need for approval, and the fear of disappointment. And then comes the moment, a precise instant when everything changes. It's as if a curtain has been torn, and for the first time you see reality as it is. You've lived your life putting others first, forgetting about yourself. Carl Jung said that the most important journey we can make is the journey into ourselves, but choosing yourself isn't easy. It means facing your own fears, stopping pleasing others, having the courage to say no to everything that doesn't reflect your true essence. And that's when the real transformation begins. When you finally decide to choose yourself, you may notice that the world around you reacts. Some people will look at you suspiciously, others will feel threatened by your newfound confidence. They'll criticize you, saying that you've changed, that you've become selfish, but the truth is that you haven't changed. You've simply gone back to being who you always were. The problem is that many were used to seeing you as someone submissive, always willing to sacrifice yourself for the good of others. Now that you've decided to say no, set limits, and go your own way without constantly seeking approval, their equilibrium is shattered. And this is not because you are doing something wrong, but because your transformation forces them to look inside themselves, and not everyone is ready to do that. Chapter 2. Synchronicity and the Path of Individuation, the Struggle. Between the old and the new self. When you finally choose yourself, something incredible happens. You realize that you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You're no longer afraid of disappointment, of being judged, of not being enough. You begin to deny yourself without guilt. You stop seeking approval and discover that the greatest freedom lies in living according to your truth. Jung talked about individuation, the process by which an individual becomes the most authentic version of themselves. Not the version that society imposes, not the version that the family expects, but the one that resonates with their soul. The most important consequence of this process is liberation. You will feel lighter, stronger, more connected to your true nature, because for the first time in your life you are walking in the right direction. Every choice you've made so far has been conditioned by the need to please, the fear of rejection, the desire to be accepted. But when you finally choose yourself, the past loses its power over you. You will no longer feel the need to justify who you are, nor will you be afraid of those who don't understand your journey. You will no longer try to fill the void with the approval of others, because you will understand a fundamental truth: you are enough on your own. Jung said that the journey towards yourself requires courage, and this courage comes when you stop looking for answers outside and start finding them within yourself. Have you ever noticed that when you make an authentic decision, suddenly everything starts to align? New people come into your life. Previously impossible opportunities open up before you, and everything happens with almost magical precision. Jung called this phenomenon synchronicity. When you choose yourself, the world responds. Energies realign, wrong situations disappear, and in their place comes what you really need to grow. It's not magic, it's the natural consequence of living in coherence with your essence. But be careful, synchronicity doesn't mean that everything will be easy or that you won't encounter any obstacles. On the contrary, you may come across moments of doubt where the old and the new collide within you. There will be situations that test your resolve, people who try to pull you back, and old fears that resurface. But it is precisely in these moments that you must trust what you feel. If something in your life starts to flow naturally, if doors open effortlessly, if you meet people who seem to be exactly what you needed at that moment, it's no coincidence. It's a sign that you're on the right track, that you're finally walking in tune with your true self. Chapter 3. The Transformation of Loneliness. Embracing emptiness as the path to self-knowledge. As you choose yourself, something surprising begins to happen. You start to fall in love with your own company. Loneliness, which once seemed like a burden, begins to be seen as an opportunity for self-discovery. When you finally choose to live for yourself, you no longer feel dependent on external validation, and this can generate an initial emptiness, a sense of something missing. But contrary to what many people think, this void is not an absence but a new space full of possibilities. Before you filled this space with toxic people or habits trying to fill the emptiness you felt inside. But now you're beginning to realize that this emptiness is not something to be feared, but an opportunity for reconfiguration. This space is where true transformation lies. It's where you rediscover long-forgotten passions, desires that have been put aside, and the untapped potential of your soul. When you embrace loneliness without fear of facing it, something begins to change. You come to terms with who you really are without the masks you've worn over the years to please others. Loneliness becomes your ally, a breeding ground for self-knowledge. You stop looking outside for what already exists inside you, and however uncomfortable it may seem at first, solitude begins to bring a sense of freedom never experienced before. You no longer depend on others to feel complete. This is one of the greatest revelations of Jung's individuation process, the realization that we don't need anything or anyone to be complete apart from ourselves. Solitude therefore becomes a symbol of freedom, of reconciliation with the self, and in doing so, you begin to love yourself in a profound and unconditional way like never before. This is the real transformation, the one that happens when you finally understand that you don't need anyone to be who you are. Have you experienced this transformation in solitude, where you found a new space for self-discovery? How was the experience of embracing emptiness and realizing that it is not an absence, but an opportunity to reconnect with yourself? Share your reflections on how loneliness has become a path to self-knowledge and liberation for you. Chapter 4. The Danger of Clinging to the Past. How freedom from control paves the way for transformation. The process of choosing yourself and embracing your truth can seem daunting at first. Often people try to fall back into old patterns, looking for something familiar to fill the newfound void. The fear of loneliness, the fear of going it alone can be so strong that it's tempting to give in and return to the life you used to live a life full of external approval and control. But it's at that moment, when the temptation to return to old patterns is strongest, that true transformation manifests itself. Maintaining control over life is an illusion that we always seek, but the paradox is that the more we try to control, the more controlled we become. This desire to control every area of our lives is an attempt to keep us safe in an unpredictable world, but it is also what prevents us from growing. By freeing ourselves from this need, by allowing life to flow without the constant worry of control, we find deep peace. When you choose yourself, the transformation that takes place within you begins to be reflected in your outer life. What once seemed impossible begins to align with your true self. Opportunities open up, the right people come into your life, and previously frustrating situations begin to resolve themselves with almost magical precision. This is no coincidence, it's the natural consequence of living in alignment with your essence. This is where the concept of synchronicity comes in, which Jung described as the manifestation of significant events that occur in a way that reflects our inner journey. When you start to let go of control, you begin to realize that the universe responds to this internal change. It aligns with your intentions, not because you control it, but because you finally allow it to flow around you. And when this synchronicity happens, you feel a deep connection with the cosmos, as if you were finally in the right place at the right time. This doesn't mean that the journey will be without challenges, but rather that you will be prepared to face them with confidence because you are now living in tune with your true nature. Chapter 5. Liberation through attunement. How connecting with the universe transforms your reality. When you truly align with your essence, you begin to realize that the universe is already conspiring in your favor. It's no longer a question of fighting the tides of life, but of surfing the current that takes you to your destination. Carl Jung believed that when we get closer to our true nature, we can access a state of synchronicity, where everything begins to fall into place effortlessly, as if an invisible force were guiding us and the pieces of life's puzzle finally fit together. This state of synchronicity is not just a coincidence, it is a reflection of a quantum reality where what we think and feel has the power to shape our experience. When we are in tune with our essence, our intentions become a magnet for the right opportunities, and doors that previously seemed closed begin to open with ease. People we never imagined meeting unexpected situations and perfectly aligned events appear as if they were tailor-made for our path. This is because on a quantum level, everything in the universe is interconnected. The idea that we are alone on our journey is an illusion. When we allow ourselves to let go of control and trust the process, the universe responds. This is one of the greatest secrets of personal transformation. True freedom comes when we surrender to the fluidity of life and let the universal flow guide us. And the most powerful thing is that this synchronicity is not something that happens just once or in isolated moments. It becomes part of our daily lives as we start to live in harmony with our true essence, seeing the universe as a reflection of who we are inside. Control begins to disappear, and in its place comes a deep trust that everything we need is already available to us, just waiting for us to align with it. Chapter 6. The Illusion of External Success, Rediscovering Purpose in the Simplicity of Life. When we free ourselves from control and the need for external validation, we begin to realize that true happiness doesn't come from material achievements or the approval of others. Society teaches us that success is measured by external standards, status, wealth, power. But this incessant search for a life that meets these expectations often takes us away from who we really are and puts us in a constant cycle of dissatisfaction. Success, according to Jung, is not something that can be achieved by an external standard. It is, in fact, an inner journey, a search for self-knowledge and the realization of the deepest potential that resides in each of us. What many people don't realize is that true satisfaction doesn't come from achieving goals imposed by others, but from living a life in line with our truth. This transformation happens when we stop looking outside for what we can find within ourselves. Life doesn't have to be complicated to be meaningful. When we are in tune with our purpose, things begin to simplify. The complexities of life disappear, and what once seemed confusing or unattainable becomes clear and accessible. The freedom to be who we really are is not just a personal liberation, but a true internal revolution that changes the way we relate to the world around us. As we begin to let go of masks and illusions of success, we connect more deeply with our true essence, and it is in this connection that we find true peace and satisfaction. The greatest success is to be authentic, to live according to our own values, without worrying about what others think. In doing so, we experience a sense of completeness that nothing else can give us. Success then becomes a natural consequence of our inner transformation. Have you ever felt trapped in the pursuit of success that society defines only to discover that it doesn't bring true satisfaction? How was the experience of rediscovering your purpose in the simplicity of life aligning yourself with your inner truth? Share how you have found peace in letting go of external expectations and living according to your own values. Chapter 7. Reconciliation with the shadow, integrating our dark sides for wholeness. Throughout our journey, many of us try to avoid the darker aspects of our personality, fears, insecurities, traumas, and parts of ourselves that we don't want to acknowledge, are often repressed, denied, or ignored. But Jung taught us that true transformation only occurs when we make peace with our shadow. The shadow is not just the bad side of our personality, but those unrecognized parts, those that have been denied or not allowed to exist. When we begin to look at these parts with honesty and compassion, we begin to integrate these facets into our being, and it is in this process that true individuation takes place. The resistance we feel towards our shadow is a reflection of a fear of facing our totality. However, it is when we confront and accept our shadow that we are able to access a deep source of power. The shadow has a unique wisdom. It holds our unrecognized abilities and talents that we ignore. Often the qualities we reject in ourselves are the ones that have the potential to propel us towards true and profound transformation. This process of integration doesn't mean surrendering to negativity, but learning to integrate these aspects in a balanced and conscious way. When we do this, we start to live in a more authentic and complete way. It is in this process of reconciling our conflicting aspects that true personal power emerges. The shadow is not something to be feared, but something to be understood and integrated as part of our totality. When we become aware of it, we start to live in a more integrated way and in harmony with our true essence. Chapter 8. The Path of Detachment. How letting go of control frees us from the illusion of security. Detachment is undoubtedly one of the most difficult but powerful aspects of the spiritual journey. We live in a society that values security, control, and stability, but this incessant search for control is often the root of human suffering. We live clinging to certainties and expectations that bind us to a limited reality, where the fear of the unknown becomes an insurmountable obstacle. When we choose to live according to our truth, detachment becomes an essential step on the road to freedom. Letting go doesn't mean abandoning everything we love, but rather releasing the control we exert over things, people, and circumstances. Control is an attempt to guarantee our safety, but in reality, it only imprisons us. When we let go of this need to control, we begin to realize that the universe actually works in our favor, and that everything we need is already available to us. Detachment is an attitude of trust, a surrender to life that goes beyond logic and reason. It's understanding that by letting go of control, we gain true freedom. As the quantum field teaches us, reality is a web of possibilities that manifest according to the energy and intention we put into the world. When we let go of expectations and fear, this energy begins to flow more freely, opening doors and opportunities that were previously blocked. Detachment, therefore, is not a loss, but a true liberation. It connects us to the present, to pure experience, and to the possibility of creating a life that resonates with our deepest essence. By learning to let go of what no longer serves us, we become more open to the new, to transformation, and to the abundance that the universe has to offer. We have reached the end of this journey of self-discovery and transformation. Today we explore how letting go, integrating the shadow and synchronicity, can lead us to a more authentic life in line with our essence. Choosing yourself is the first step towards true freedom, where control gives way to trust in the natural flow of life. Now, I want to know from you, which part of this journey resonated with you the most? Comment below and share your experiences. If you found value in this video, like it, share it with those who need to hear this message, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episodes on transformation and spiritual growth. See you in the next video.